I'm so happy you're here, and I'm so happy to be here and to be offering this workshop today. So, in today's workshop, we are going to be specifically looking at the voice and the trauma around the voice. Now, there's so much to this, and it's actually a really powerful and beautiful journey to take. And this is not an overnight journey. But if you are already on this journey where you're learning to step into your voice, maybe why you hold yourself back, why you censor yourself, why you're scared to speak up, we're going to go into the root of this. And there's many different facets to this. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Tess McMecken, and I am a developmental and somatic trauma practitioner. And so I help people get to the root of what is going on. That's really important to me in the work that I do, and we're going to be doing that here today. So usually the root starts in childhood. And so I specialize in childhood trauma and belief work. So a lot of our problems or our suffering comes from the belief systems that we hold, specifically our limiting beliefs. So there's going to be 3 parts to this workshop. So the first one is we're going to dive deep into childhood trauma and where we cultivated this fear of stepping into our voice, or to owning our truth, or to being okay with being authentic and who we are. And maybe we don't even truly know who we are because we've gone through so much trauma, and now we're on the healing journey. And if you're here today, I imagine you have started that path of healing. Or maybe this is your first time. This is your first workshop and you're just really interested in starting this journey. So wherever you are at on your healing journey, I really hope that today can put some things into perspective for you, and you can have some aha moments that you can take home with you. And so then the second part of this workshop, we're going to specifically go into the persecution imprint. And now you may not have heard this term before, but I will be describing that when we go into it. And this is going to be connected to our lineage. And this is ancestral work. So we're going to talk about how we can get curious about our lineage and how we have certain patterns passed down from our ancestors. And then the third part of this workshop is really bringing it all together, and we're going to really discuss cycles and patterns and people in our lives who are mirrors for us to break these cycles and to heal these patterns within us. And also through this workshop, we're going to really connect with our bodies, and I will talk you through that. But we're going to really try to feel what's going on within us during this workshop, so you can do the work or start the work while you're here today. Okay, so let's dive into part 1, which is our childhood experiences and childhood trauma. So why do we have struggles with our voice? And what do these struggles look like? So I want you to take a look in your current life right now. What is your relationship like with your voice? Some examples of what this can look like in our current reality in our life right now is that we can be over agreeable with others. We can censor our voice and not speak up our true opinions or feelings out of fear of judgment and rejection. Maybe we have a fear of showing or expressing how we truly feel. And we're going to get into this in a bit, why that is. First, I just want to look at the symptoms. Maybe we are scared to speak up boundaries. We don't even know necessarily what those boundaries are. Don't know how to communicate that. Maybe we get really nervous when we have to speak up. Maybe we get shaky. So I used to, this was the reason why I started my journey with my voice, is because I used to go into trauma responses and my whole body would shake and I would sweat. And it was really scary sometimes to have to speak in groups or with certain people. So we all have different symptoms of how this shows up in our life. So maybe just take a moment to think how this shows up for you in your life. Our voices are also connected to our no, right? And so if we have learned to say yes, if we've been taught to say yes when really we mean no, or maybe we don't even know what our no is, but we know something's not right, our boundaries get crossed, that comes down to our voice. So boundaries are a big piece of our voice and stepping into our empowerment and owning our no. And so I want to highlight this again. The voice is attached to our empowerment. And so if any part of our voice is shut down, we are probably self-abandoning because we don't know any different. And so when we are self-abandoning, we are harming and hurting ourselves. And this is unconscious, and we've probably been doing it our whole lives because, again, we do not know any different. So this is not your fault. It's about bringing in self-compassion and love. At the end of the day, it is deep self-compassion and understanding that will heal you. With that compassion and understanding, we have to get to the root. And so at the beginning of this video, I said, I like to get to the root of things. And so how we do that is we want to go way, 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 way back to childhood. Where did this start? Let's just connect with our bodies right now. And maybe you put a hand on your heart, one on your tummy or your womb. And then we're going to take a deep breath in. In through the nose, out through the mouth. One more deep breath in. Out through the mouth. And I just want you to keep your eyes closed and feel your body. Feel your body supported on the chair that you're sitting on, knowing that you're supported in this moment. And now I want you to bring in a memory recently where you wanted to speak up, but you censored yourself. Or maybe you were overly agreeable and you didn't actually agree. And so I just want everybody to take a moment to remember something recently, within the last week or two. Okay. So I know it's not a lot of time here, and I don't want to leave too much space in between. And so you can always practice this later if this is not enough time for you to retrieve that memory. But either way, so I want you to pull that memory in to your experience now. Okay. So we're going to be with this memory and knowing that you are in a safe place right now. Even though we want to re-experience this in a safe way, I want you to know that you are safe here right now as we do this. And we're going to identify and notice and then drop into the sensations and the emotions that are accompanied with this. So a lot of people don't know the difference between sensation and emotion. So sensation is a tightness in the throat, a burning sensation in the chest, churning in the stomach, tightness in the body, heaviness on the shoulders, tingling on the head. So I want you to notice what sensations are present right now. Okay, now I want you to drop into them. Now, these can be uncomfortable, and a lot of times we want to run away from uncomfort. But what we want to do is we want to face them. We want to be with them. We want to get comfortable in the discomfort, and that takes practice with sitting with and being with what is. You want to be with what is happening right now. And then I want you to notice what emotion is present. So is there shame, guilt, fear, anger, sadness, grief? Right? So just paying attention to that. So a lot of this that's happening right now is old, right? The present day situation that we've called in, let's say you censored your voice and you're connecting to what that feels like in the body. You're noticing what emotions is present. It's probably fear. Now, I don't want to project that onto your experience. You need to see what resonates for you, right? Don't just take what I say as your truth. You want to get curious and really pay attention to what is actually going on for you. So I'm going to use fear, though, as an example. We're usually scared to speak our truth because we're fearful of rejection or criticism or judgment. And so we want to be with that. When all we want to do usually is run away, run to the other side, run away from it. I don't want to deal with this. No, you want to be with it
So we want to pay attention to how old this is. Where do we learn this from? How long have we been doing this for? How long has this pain state lived in our body for? And so this isn't necessarily about going to a memory, because a lot of people who've had childhood trauma, they don't have any memories, but they can recognize this through feeling, right? There's something there, it's familiar. And that's why it's really important to understand and start to communicate with the body, because the mind doesn't always have the answers. And so you don't need to remember a specific memory, but I just want you to get curious about your childhood and trust that if there's no memories that come up, that the answers will be revealed to you, right? Whether it's through somatically, where you feel something, right? That's you getting in touch with your body and stuff that you already know. Your body remembers, right? Your mind doesn't have to remember. So just get curious. There is no right or wrong way to do this.
So for example, a lot of my clients were told they were too sensitive when they were children. A lot of my clients are highly sensitive people or empaths, and they had big emotions. That's okay. We are emotional beings. However, it was not supported or accepted in their household when they were a child. And so if we grew up in a home where we learned that our needs don't matter and that our parents' needs are more important, or the other family members' needs are more important. So maybe we grew up in a home with a family member who has mental health issues, or an alcoholic parent or parents. Maybe you got dismissed by the adults in your home, or a certain adult, right? This is when you speak up or you talk, and that is shut down. And what happens is the child slowly learns that it's not safe to speak up. It's not safe to speak my voice. I better be quiet. And so this is an adaptation of their personality that carries forward into adulthood. A lot of highly sensitive children who become adults struggle with this, including myself. So it's quite common in highly sensitive people and empaths. And so the somatic work that we did, where you're checking in with your body and seeing what this feels like, you really want to get to know what this feels like in your body. What does it feel like to shut down your voice? What does it feel like if you were to suddenly not have this fear? How would that change your life? If you were able to fully step into your voice and your authenticity without the fear of being rejected or criticized or punished, how would your life change? What would you do differently? Right? So the voice is connected to so much. It's a big piece of how we walk in this world, how we show up in this world, how we show up for ourselves in this world. Right? If we got our boundaries crossed as children and we haven't learned to step into our no, like I was speaking about before, then we probably still let people cross our boundaries in adulthood. So I know before I started working on boundaries, I had zero boundaries in early adulthood, right? It took a lot of healing work to really get solid in understanding what my no's even were. And I will tell you right now, your body will tell you. So you want to get to know in your body what a no feels like and what a yes feels like. So when you're unsure, and if a boundary's been crossed, and this happens when we've had our boundaries crossed so much that we don't even know what's right or wrong. Our whole system gets dysregulated, and it can be really, really tricky to know what that line is. So if you ever have that confusion, your body won't lie to you. You'll know. You can feel the no in your body. And so when you start to know what is right for you and what is wrong for you, what is a yes, because your body will be a full yes. It's open, right? A no is closed. When you have a no and you know it's a no, that's where the voice comes in. Now I need to speak that no. Now it's time for me to get the courage to be able to speak that. And that's where a lot of fear comes in, right? Where we know our boundaries being crossed, but we're too scared to speak up. And so this is where we want to get to the root of those beliefs. What do I make it mean if I say no to someone? What am I scared of? In the past, that's been met with punishment. In the past, that's been met with gaslighting, right? So we need to see why it's so scary for us to say no and to stand in our voice or to speak our truth. So, the really powerful thing about going into our childhood trauma is we start to understand where we developed these coping mechanisms, right? And so, maybe our coping mechanism is censoring ourselves, right? Or being overly agreeable or people pleasing, right? These are all related to the voice. So, when we can understand where that was cultivated from, it's like, oh my goodness, no wonder. This makes so much sense. It's freeing to see it. It hurts to see it at first. It's like, whoa. But when you get more information about your history, because a lot of times we don't see our history correctly. I have so many clients that have said, I had an amazing childhood, but throughout their childhood, they were dismissed over and over and over again, right? And it's not that they didn't have an amazing childhood in this regard. That doesn't take away the goodness in your childhood. But what emotional state were you in most of your childhood? Were you scared to speak up in your childhood? Did you self-isolate? Did you deal with your problems and your emotional stuff on your own as a child? Was anybody there to hold you or help you? Right? These are the things that we need to look at to understand how we developed, how we grew into this world, and we took those things with us into adulthood. And if we haven't addressed them or they're unconscious, then they'll be driving us in adulthood. So it's really, really freeing to really dive into our childhood. And fair warning, once you go there, there's a lot of layers, and it's a devotion. It's a commitment. It's a journey. And you will not be the same person on the other side. You are really learning how to reparent yourself when you start diving into your childhood trauma. It's really, really powerful, deep work. And it's life-changing. Okay, so I could talk for hours about childhood trauma, but we have to move on to the second part here. So we're going to dive into ancestral trauma and lineage work. So many of our patterns that we have are not just our own, right? They're not ours in a way. They can go back generations through the bloodline. Now, that's not our fault. And for centuries, this will go unconscious through the bloodline. But then there's a certain person that will come in the lineage that is ready to feel it all and to heal it and to address it. And they are the cycle breaker. Now, if you're here and you've committed to doing this retreat, you are probably that person, right? They're the healers in their lineage. So this is a lot of responsibility. It's not easy to be that person that says, this ends with me. I'm no longer continuing this cycle that's been happening probably for centuries, right? So a lot of these patterns go way back with our ancestors. But the good news is, if you are that person and you are doing self-healing and you're on that path, or this sparks an interest right now and you're like, I want to keep going on that path. I want to start that path. Or maybe you're deep into it, right? Just take a moment. I just want you to take a moment and acknowledge yourself. Acknowledge that that is what you're doing, that this is your role in your lineage. It takes a lot of courage to be here and to do this, because not very many people walk this path of choosing to heal. And that deserves your recognition, because it's not an easy path. But it is the clearest path to freedom. So when you heal yourself, you are healing your ancestors that came before you and your ancestors that will be coming after you. Now, people always say, well, how can you heal your ancestors that are already passed away? Well, time is not linear. And the way that I see it is that past lives or our ancestors' lives aren't actually in the past. It's all happening right now. So you are also so connected to your ancestors. You are your ancestors. They are you. Even in some of your past lives, you could very well be one of your ancestors. So you're very connected. And so when you heal, you're also healing those timelines. even though they feel like they're in the past, they're gone. It's all simultaneously happening right now. So this work is big, big, big work. So the voice, this is in our DNA, is not just in our childhood trauma, like in this lifetime, right? So if we really struggle with stepping into our voice, especially for a healer, a lot of healing practitioners, shamans and healers, they actually go through this with their voice. So in a past life, or in one of their ancestors, or many ancestors, were actually persecuted for stepping into their spiritual gifts or speaking their voice. So I want to use this as a teachable moment. I had to stop the recording because I started to cough when I spoke the last sentence about healers being persecuted in past lives or in their lineage for sharing their spiritual gifts and their voice. And immediately I just started coughing. Okay, so much coughing. So I cough when there's still an imprint or piece that needs to be healed. And so this is what I mean by the path of the voice comes in layers, and you want to let go of time. So I've been working on this for about 8 years consistently, and I still have stuff come up. Okay, so just let go of time when you're on this path. I wanted to use that as a teachable moment to share with you that there's so many layers and lifetimes to this. So the reason my body starts reacting and coughing is because there's grief there, and there is I've struggled with a persecution imprint and in past lives and through my lineage. It's a big piece, not just this trauma in this lifetime around my voice just in childhood. This goes way back. So I want you to see what this feels like to hear this, the persecution imprint. Being persecuted for speaking up, right? Death. Now, this actually is also in all of our DNA beyond just the persecution imprint. So in prehistoric times, you were a part of the tribe. If you got kicked out of the tribe, you're no longer with the group, you'd be on your own. You will not survive. You will not survive on your own. So approval of the group was very important. And so approval from others becomes a survival mechanism. If I am not approved of, I will not survive. I will die. So what am I going to do? I'm going to unconsciously alter myself, alter my voice, become small, so I can survive, so I can live. So there's so much that goes hand in hand with our voice. There are so many components to this and so many facets that are working together. But the really, really, really powerful thing is that, yes, this comes from past lives. Yes, it comes from our ancestry and it's in our DNA, but we also hold major empowerment and gifts, spiritual gifts in our lineage, from our ancestors, in our past lives, in our DNA that we can also access. So I know it can feel overwhelming, like there's so many factors that are, holding my voice back. How do you even heal that? But you also have so many spiritual gifts that are here to help you heal that. And through your voice, through stepping into your voice, you are peeling back layers and you are truly starting to understand who you are beyond the crowd, beyond the group, beyond the mainstream, because you're now listening and learning how to listen to your own inner knowing, your own wisdom, your own inner voice. And when you start to truly honor that, you start to connect with your intuition and those gifts. So the limitation, your voice, being shut down in whatever way it is actually the solution. It's actually the medicine. Anything in our life where there's a limitation, that is the entryway. When we can go into the limitation and hold that limitation with compassion and get curious about it, and sit with it and feel it and understand it. Hold it like a baby. Nurture it like a baby. That baby will grow and it's going to speak to you and you're going to start to learn how to communicate. And there's going to be a whole healing that happens. And through that, you are reparenting yourself. And it's a really, really beautiful process. It's a very, very sacred process. So coming back to our lineage and our ancestry, we can get curious about our bloodline. How did our ancestors live? How did our grandmothers live? Our great-grandmothers, our grandfathers, our great-grandfathers? Where did they come from? Where did you come from? So when we open up the door to learn about our ancestors, we are opening up the door to ourselves that maybe we had no idea was there. Now, this is not just on this physical level. This opens up the doors to the many, many layers, which are multidimensional, which can also help you access those spiritual gifts. So coming back to the voice, it is a very sacred and potent journey, and it'll take you on so many different avenues that are really beautiful once you open this door. So I've had clients come and say, I can't get my hands on any of the history of my family. I don't know anything. It's impossible. So you don't need to have those physical papers of your ancestry. You can actually access all of that within. And this just takes practice. You can connect with your ancestors through praying to them, through learning to connect with them on a multidimensional level. And this just takes practice. It just takes practice listening. And this is going to also, again, cultivate your intuition and your natural spiritual gifts. And so when I first started, it was really tricky. But the more that I practice, the more that I realize that I can communicate with my ancestors, and they're right here, cheering me on. They're always here when I call. And there's so many answers that come from within. And that's what this voice leads you to, is that deep inner knowing within. And so I'm conscious of time, and so we're going to have to move into part 3. So part 3 is going to be a little bit more brief than the other parts. So when we commit to or decide that we want to step on this journey with our voice, there is going to be a lot of different opportunities that can appear like challenges or conflicts or situations outside of us that are calling upon us to step into our voice. So this can come in the form of other people showing up in our lives, or maybe family members who have dismissed us in the past will continue those patterns where we have to pay attention and observe what is happening within us when that happens. And we can use those situations as opportunities to heal. We can use those situations as opportunities to do things differently, to understand why this has been happening in our life. So I'm going to give you a personal example. When I was kind of pretty deep into my healing journey with my voice, I started getting invitations to do public speaking around trauma. And this was a huge fear of mine, to do public speaking. But I knew I had to say yes, because I knew it would be a part of my healing. So that was an opportunity. It was a challenge, but it was an opportunity, right? People would show up in my life that would mimic stuff that happened in my childhood, maybe really difficult or challenging situations that forced me to step into my boundaries and speak my nose. So you might have some really uncomfortable things show up as you step on this journey, but that is life mirroring to you where you're at, so you can level up. They're like tests in a way. You can't fail them, because you're gonna fall down, you're gonna be messy, and you'll get back up. And there's no right or wrong way to do it, okay? But the life will mirror this to you and give these opportunities and challenges for you to level up. And we want to be real with what is in our life currently right now. Do we have relationships in our life, that people that are close to us, that do dismiss us? How do we show up to that? Why are we still allowing that in our life? Right? So we want to look at our wounds and we want to look at what is currently in our life right now. And that's where we can start. Right? If somebody in our life is stepping over our boundaries, that's where we can start. We can actually use that as a mirror to see how we are responding to that, how we're dealing with that, if we're avoiding it, if we're not dealing with it, right? And what does that make us feel like? When someone steps over our boundaries, what do we believe about ourselves? There's so many different stories that we tell when our boundaries get crossed. It's too scary, it's not safe. It's not safe for me to step up. It's not safe for me to say no. But I promise you, when you start to get strong in your no's, your whole reality will change. Because when you say no, I no longer accept this into my life, people either meet you or they leave your life. And when you do the healing work and you start to say no and you start to stand up for yourself and you start to own your empowerment and not tolerate toxicity, some people don't like that. And some will meet you and they will shift before your very eyes and they will meet you in that. And others, like I said, will fall away. And that's okay. If relationships come to an end, it's because they're not meant to walk with you into your new life, because you're stepping into a new you, a new healthier version of you. And some people are not meant to come with you. All right, we're going to have to wrap it up here because I am conscious of time. I am so incredibly blessed to be here today. I feel absolutely honored that I got to share this with you guys today. So thank you for being a part of this and listening and watching. If you feel intrigued by this workshop today and you'd like to learn more, my website is below. Thank you for being here and so many blessings to you on your healing journey ahead.